Hi guys, it's Megan with Vigilante Vibes, and today I have another character breakdown for you, and one I am so excited to do. I think we can all agree that this character is a fan favorite, someone who we are also excited to see to come back to the Marvel live action universe. Of course, I'm talking about Jessica Jones. Who is Jessica Jones? We've all seen the excitement of Krysten Ritter reprising her role as Jessica in Daredevil Born Again Season 2, and I think it's safe to say that everyone loves that. Actually, late last night, we got our first look at Krysten on the set of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, so spoiler alert, because the pictures will pop up in 1 second, and you'll get a good look at Daredevil's new suit. I know some of you are more sensitive about spoilers, and I just want to be polite about that, so that is your warning. As you can see, she's fitting right in. And side note, take a look at Daredevil's suit and peep the double D's on the chest because that's amazing. Anyways, let's talk about Jessica Jones in the live action series versus her comic counterpart. Now, let's start with who Jessica Jones is in her self-titled series, and now she's in the MCU. Jessica Jones is a tough-as-nails private investigator from New York City. After losing her family in a tragic car accident, she was adopted by Dorothy Walker and became super close with her new sister, Trish. The accident also left her with unexpected superpowers, which led her to try out the whole superhero thing for a while. But things took a very dark turn when she crossed paths with Kilgrave, or the Purple Man, a seriously twisted guy with mind-controlling powers. He took over her life and manipulated her for a long time until she finally broke free. Traumatized and dealing with serious PTSD, Jessica gave up on being a hero and opened her own private investigating agency instead, trying to live under the radar while taking on small-time cases and battling her inner demons, which she tended to do with alcohol. Eventually, Kilgrave came back into her life, and along with a bunch of people he hurt through her. With the help of Trish, Jerry Hogarth, Claire Temple, and Luke Cage, Jessica confronted him and, after some intense showdowns, killed him, finally taking back control of her life. Later, while on a case, she stumbled into a bigger mess involving a shadowy group called the Hand. This led her to team up with Luke, Iron Fist, and Daredevil, the Defenders. Together, they managed to take the Hand down, though it looked like Daredevil didn't make it out. After that, Jessica's name got around, and her detective agency just took off. Things got messy when she started digging into IGH, the organization that gave her powers. She discovered that her mother, Alyssa, whom she thought was dead, was alive and also had powers, but was unstable. After trying to get her mom to get a second chance, things spiraled out of control, as they tend to do. When Alyssa escaped, Jessica tried to run with her, but it all ended in heartbreak when Trish killed Alyssa. Jessica then cut ties with Trish. Later, Jessica met Eric Gelden, which led her to a new threat, Gregory Salinger, a creepy genius who targeted powered people. Jessica and a now enhanced Trish teamed up to stop him, but Salinger was always one step ahead. Even when she exposed him, her former ally Jerry Hogarth defended him publicly, turning the tide against Jessica. After Salinger murdered Trish's mom, Dorothy, Trish went off the deep end and started killing folks she saw as threats. Eventually, Jessica had to stop her own best friend and bring her to justice to prevent even more bloodshed. So, Jessica Jones is, she has a very dark life. She's a great character. I love Krysten Ritter as Jessica Jones. I never would have thought of her in that role until I saw it, and now it's like, I can't see anyone else in that role. I'm sorry. But I'm so excited for her to come back to the MCU. Personally, I think Matt Murdock's law firm is going to hire her as a personal investigator. I think it'd be cool. But also, the leaked photos that we saw last night kind of look like they're already teaming up in a superhero kind of way. So I'm not sure what they're doing. But I'm very, very excited for her to come back. And it's only a matter of time till we get Luke Cage and Danny Rand. I know a lot of people do not like Finn as Danny Rand, but I think everyone deserves a second chance. So, moving on, Now that you have that refresher, let's talk about who Jessica Jones is in the comics. Jessica Jones' first appearance in the Marvel Comics universe was in the miniseries Alias, specifically issue 1. Fun fact, the beginning of the TV series of Marvel's Jessica Jones episode 1 is a direct homage to the first panel of that comic issue, with Jessica throwing a man through an alias sign. She was created by writer Brian Michael Bendis and artist Michael Gaydos. As usual, Brian Michael Bendis is doing the most and giving us the best. So, Jessica Campbell was a quiet, shy kid growing up and mostly kept to herself at Midtown High. Everything changed during a family road trip when her dad accidentally drove into a military truck. A container of experimental chemicals smashed through the windshield and hit Jessica, putting her in a coma. Tragically, her parents and younger brother did not survive the crash. After waking up months later, Jessica ended up living at a home for troubled kids before being adopted by the Jones family, kind neighbors who took her in. Her new mom had lost her own parents young too, so she really connected with Jessica and brought her into their family. Going back to school was rough. Jessica went from being invisible to being that weird girl who just come out of a coma. One day, Peter Parker, who was also kind of a loner, tried to be nice to her, but Jessica took it the wrong way and ran off, quite literally. In her panic, she discovered that she could leap super far, and that was just the beginning of her powers. Soon she realized she had super strength, she could fly, and was way tougher than any regular person. After accidentally taking down the villain Scorpion, she started thinking maybe she could do something good with her abilities. So she became a superhero named Jewel, taking on street-level criminals and gang members. Even though she stayed mostly under the radar, Jessica did make some superpowered friends along the way, one of the most important being Carol Danvers. This was back when Carol Danvers was actually Miss Marvel, not Captain Marvel. Carol would go on to become one of Jessica's closest allies. Jessica got super strength and can hit like a champ. She can technically fly, but she's never really gotten the hang of it, so she mostly sticks to the ground. She's also pretty badass in a fight and definitely doesn't shy away from throwing punches, especially when she's pissed off. But honestly, her real superpower might be her brain. She's sharp, she's resourceful, she knows how to read people, which makes her an excellent private investigator. At her agency, Alias Investigations, she's all about digging up the truth and tracking down bad guys. Thanks to her work as a private investigator and a part-time vigilante, Jessica's made plenty of enemies in New York. One of the worst of them, Jebediah Kilgrave, better known as the Purple Man. That is who David Tennant was playing in the show, for those who don't know that. Back when she was still operating as her superhero alter ego Jewel, Jessica stepped into what looked like just another fight, only this time it involved Kilgrave, a twisted guy with the power to control people using pheromones. Once he got his hooks into her, he kept Jessica under his control for 8 brutal months, using her, abusing her, as a revenge for getting shown up by other heroes like Daredevil. At one point, in a rage over Daredevil's latest win, Kilgrave ordered Jessica to fly to Avengers Mansion and kill him. What he didn't realize was that the farther she got from him, the less control he had. By the time she got there, she was confused and ended up mistaking the Scarlet Witch for Daredevil because of her costume. Jessica punched her square in the face before realizing it was a huge mistake. Panicked and disoriented, she took off, but the Avengers chased her down and seriously injured her before Miss Marvel stepped in and explained what was really going on. Jessica ended up in a coma again and was placed in a special care facility by S.H.I.E.L.D. Eventually, Jean Grey used her psychic powers to wake Jessica up. Even after she recovered, both physically and mentally, the trauma stuck with her. She started dating S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Clay Quartermain during her recovery, and Nick Fury even offered her a job as the Avengers S.H.I.E.L.D. liaison. But after everything she'd been through with Kilgrave, Jessica was done with the whole superhero thing, which is fair. She just couldn't go back to it. She's still dealing with trauma. She still has PTSD. Eventually, Jessica got her PI license and launched her own agency, Alias Investigations. In those early days, her cases and her messy love life pulled her deeper into the superhero world. When the streets call, you answer. One of her first big gigs had her unknowingly following Captain America around, which weirdly turned into working partnership. That case also kicked off her relationship with lawyer Matt Murdock, Daredevil, who helped her clear her name in a murder investigation thanks to a favor from Luke Cage. Around the same time, she reconnected with her old friend Miss Marvel, who set her up on a blind date with Scott Lang, who is Ant-Man. They dated for a bit, which pulled her even further into the Avengers orbit. As she sharpened her skills as both a PI and a crime fighter, Jessica ended up teaming up with Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist as one of the Defenders. Together, they took on street-level crime and went up against all kinds of villains around New York City. Over time, Jessica and Luke Cage grew close, though their relationship definitely had a rocky, awkward start. Eventually, things got serious and the two fell in love and got married. Even with Jessica's deep doubts about the superhero lifestyle and her fears that her personal life could be used against her, especially because of what the Purple Man put her through, they decided to start a family. Their daughter, Danielle, who, fun fact, has Squirrel Girl as her babysitter, became a bright spot in their often chaotic, superpowered lives. Jessica kept busy with a bunch of different cases, like tracking down a guy who was totally convinced he was Rick Jones, Captain America's old sidekick, and getting hired by J. Jonah Jameson himself to try and figure out who Spider-Man really was. She also helped find a runaway teen from a small town and even worked as Matt Murdock's bodyguard for a bit alongside Luke Cage. Things got tense with Jameson when someone dressed as Spider-Woman broke into Jessica's place. Turns out it was Maddie Franklin, Jameson's adopted daughter. Jessica teamed up with a little bit of reluctance with the real Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, and together they sorted things out. That messy case ended up opening the door for Jessica to land a gig at the Daily Bugle down the line. One of Jessica's toughest cases, mentally anyway, came when a woman reached out asking for help getting closure for the families of the Purple Man's victims. The second Jessica heard his name, she had a full-blown PTSD episode and bolted to Avengers Mansion, where she confronted Carol Danvers for sending the woman her way. The conversation went south so fast, as most of Jessica's social interactions tend to do, and she ran off. Her boyfriend at the time, Scott Lang, tried to be supportive, but instead of leaning on him, Jessica ended up turning to Luke Cage. She opened up to him for the first time about what the Purple Man had done to her, and the deep heart-to-heart started to shift their friendship into something way more. That talk gave Jessica the courage to contact her old flame, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Clay Quartermain, and asked him to get her into the Raft, a high-security prison, so she could confront the Purple Man and try to get him to confess to his crimes. She hoped it would bring some peace to the victims' families. Instead, he refused, and just to make things worse, he escaped the prison the same day. The next morning, Jessica woke up to find Scott lying next to her, apparently dead and covered in ants. But before she could even react, the Purple Man casually revealed that he was alive and ordered Jessica to follow him. While walking through the streets of New York under his control, Jean Grey appeared in Jessica's mind, reminding her that she'd secretly placed a mental failsafe years ago when she woke up Jessica from her coma. All Jessica had to do was activate it, and she did. She snapped out of it and gave Kilgrave the beating of his life that he fully deserved. Once things settled down, Scott found Jessica, and during their talk, she dropped a bomb. She was pregnant, and it was not his. That was the end of their relationship, and Jessica began a new chapter with the baby daddy, Luke Cage. With the pregnancy weighing heavily on her, Jessica applied for a consulting job with none other than J. Jessica Jameson, famous for being anti-superhero. Neither she nor Luke was thrilled about it, but she wanted something stable for the baby's sake. Jameson agreed to hire her on the condition that the Daily Bugle got the exclusive on the superhero baby story. Jessica's next big case had her chasing down a bunch of teen heroes who were trying to carry on the Avengers legacy after the team had disbanded. That led her to a wild situation involving a time-traveling teenage version of King the Conqueror, a tiny Asgardianish warlock, and a new version of Patriot, a young Hulkling, Cassie Lang, Scott's daughter, who had discovered she could grow into giant size. Things got chaotic very fast, especially when the real King showed up. As time itself started to unravel, Jessica briefly suited up again as Jewel. In the end, the adults agreed to send young Kang back to his timeline to patch things up. Just as that mess calmed down, Jessica and Luke came home to find a strange woman in their apartment who immediately exploded. The blast sent them both to the hospital, with Luke ending up in a coma. While he was missing from the hospital, Jessica, now in full panic mode, searched the city trying to find him. But before she could, she fainted, only to be scooped up by Hydra agents who tried to recruit her as a spy. Naturally, she told them to shove it. Luckily, her ex, Clay Quartermain, came through and rescued her. With a little help from her Daily Bugle co-worker, Ben Urich, Jessica finally tracked Luke down to the night nurse's clinic in Chinatown, awake and alive. Then, just 3 months before her due date, Jessica suddenly went into labor. The hospital turned her away because, of course they would. But she ended up at Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, where he and a bunch of superheroes had her back. As reporters swarmed outside, Jessica called up Jameson in a fury and told him he was officially cut off from getting the scoop on her baby, especially after the hit pieces he ran on the New Avengers and, by that extension, Luke Cage. Instead, she gave the exclusive to the Daily Globe. Jessica gave birth to a healthy baby girl, and right after that, Luke proposed. The two tied the knot not long after that and named their daughter Danielle Cage. After her daughter was born, Jessica found herself getting pulled back into the superhero world she tried to walk away from. She mostly kept her distance during the whole Superhuman Registration Act drama, the Civil War mess, laying low in Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum. But eventually she gave in, registered, and returned to Avengers Tower just in time to get caught up in the chaos of Secret Invasion. Things took a dark turn when a Skrull posing as Edwin Jarvis kidnapped her baby. Thankfully, her daughter was rescued, but the whole ordeal pushed Jessica to suit up again. She brought back her jewel costume for a while before rebranding herself as Power Woman and officially joining the New Avengers to fight alongside her husband, Luke Cage. After their time with the Avengers, Jessica and Luke decided to step away from the world-ending threats and get back to their roots, protecting the streets of New York. Teaming up with fellow local heroes like Daredevil and Iron Fist, they formed a new version of the classic Defenders, a name once used by legends like Doctor Strange and the Hulk. But for Jessica, the fight has always been personal. Her real strength has never just been about her powers. It's her love for her family and her friends. Unfortunately, that's exactly what the Purple Man has always tried to use against her. Since becoming a mom and marrying Luke, Jessica has fought hard to keep her loved ones safe from him. But Kilgrave doesn't give up easily. In one of the most twisted moves yet, he managed to take control of their daughter, Danielle. The audacity! With help from her closest allies, especially Carol Danvers, Jessica faced Kilgrave head-on. Instead of just beating him down, she confronted him emotionally and mentally, working through her trauma and fears. In doing so, she finally took back full control, rejected his manipulation, and forced him out of Danielle's life and hers for good. So that is a breakdown of who Jessica Jones is in the comics. The last place I read her, God, she's good in everything she shows up in. But I really liked seeing her and Gwen Stacy in Stephanie Phillips' Spider-Gwen, the Ghost Spider run that's going on currently. I really like seeing them team up, so I'd like to see that more. But as usual, I have comics for you to check out if you want to get to know who Jessica Jones is in the comics even more and get a better understanding of her. So, starting with, you got to start from the beginning with Alias #1. A more specific one, you could try Alias Volume 4, The Secret Origin of Jessica Jones. The Pulse, which is a direct continuation of Alias. Jessica Jones from 2016. Jessica Jones Blind Spot, which is a continuation of the 2016 series. Jessica Jones Purple Daughter. Amazing Spider-Man number 601. Young Avengers Volume 1. New Avengers from 2010. Sorry, I don't have much of a voice today, so I've been struggling through this all day, this whole time. New Avengers, The Trust. And finally, Jessica Jones, Return of the Purple Man. So that is everything I have to say on Jessica Jones. I really hope you enjoyed this breakdown as much as I did, because I was up so late writing this. So late. And now I'm just trying to keep up with my energy drink here. So what can you do? So with that being said, please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss any more of these. And I don't really have much else to say. So have a marvelous day.